Hey guys, my name is Jericho. I am super excited to be here today with Parnaz. She's about to enter her second year of medical school here at McGovern. And yeah, Parnaz, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So before we get into like the nitty gritty, what made you want to go into medicine in the first place?
Yeah, so I can talk about that. I feel like my story is a little cliche. Like I was definitely one of those like 5-year-old kids that was like running around and like I wanted to be a doctor for like Halloween. And I always told my mom, like, it just happened when I was really young, but it wasn't really for any reason. It just, you know, society tells you like that's a cool thing to be, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of grew up for a long time. I was like, okay, like I'm going to be a doctor when I grow up. But then when I got into high school and I was really, becoming more into what it's like to be a mature thinking individual, I was like, well, where did this come from? Like, this is not really justified by anything. There's no sustenance behind it. And I started to be involved more in the clinical setting in high school. And I realized like this is a big deal. Like being able to have the position of a healer in your community and somebody who is essentially responsible for life, like that's not something that you can take lightly. So at that point in time in high school, I really was on the journey to justify to myself, is this genuinely what I want to do? Do I genuinely think that I could be good at it? That I could actually heal people, that I could make a difference in people's lives? And so I started to get really involved in the clinical setting. I did a lot of volunteering. I went through some really hard health issues with my family. And all of that kind of tested me and like challenged me in different ways. And as I kind of grew through that journey, I realized like, wow, no, like I really can't see myself doing anything else. Like there's real passion here. And that's why I decided to continue on that journey. But I would challenge everybody who's watching this, like, even if you're the type of person that has kind of always been playing in your head and you're like going through the motions, take some time to really think hard about it, challenge yourself, put yourself in those atmospheres, because let me tell you, medicine is a huge sacrifice. It's a beautiful thing. I wouldn't do anything else. I don't regret it, but it's a huge sacrifice. It's unlike any other career, unlike any other profession. And you have to really want it. You have to really genuinely have passion. And so that's a little bit about my story and about how I ended up pursuing medicine.
Do you have any tips for pre-medical students, freshmen all the way to senior, like what kind of things you should be doing?
Yeah, I don't want to harp on the same drum, but I think a lot of it is about passion, like exposing yourself and finding your passion, not just for medicine, but within medicine. So, what kind of communities do you like to work with? What kind of, health problems do you like to work with? Like invest in something like long term. And something I learned a lot in college was that there's so many opportunities for you to be involved in this little thing and that little thing. And let me go do some hours here and get this experience here. But let me tell you, like, I personally went on 11 interviews. So I interviewed at 11 different medical schools. And the things that the interviewers love to talk about is the things that they can see that was like a passion project for you or that you really invested in, something you would do regularly, something you would give your attention to and your mind to outside of school. So for example, I really felt passionate about working with refugees. And so that's something that I did over a long period of time. I'm really passionate about women's health. So I was doing a lot of work in that area. And when you can do that, it kind of shows that you've given thought to what you're interested in and what you're passionate about. You kind of have, something laid out ahead of you that you want to follow. It's not just like, let me just do my best to get into med school and like, hopefully it goes well from there. I will say though, that's not to say that you need to have all of your interests figured out right now. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But just to show that, like you're invested in something, you care about something long term, you're willing to kind of stick around as it grows and changes and add to it. Um, That's probably one of the biggest things I would say.
Okay. So it's good to not only have all your pre-med, prerequisites out the way, but also focus on something that really, speaks to you or something like that. Okay.
Yeah, that's, I would say, like, I know that's like a buzzword, but being a well-rounded student is really important. Like, out of the 11 interviews I did, we never talked about, my grades. We never talked about how I would study. We never talked about GPA. Like, the interview is about your personhood, and you have to come in with something strong to show for. Like, I care about something. I stand for this. I want to do this in the community. I have this dream. I've impacted my family or my life in this way. Like, you have to take it a step beyond the metrics. And I know that's easier said than done, because like people like in your shoes and in my shoes too, a few years ago, like all I could think about was like, okay, I have to get the best grade. Like, I have to get the best GPA, like da da da. But when it comes time to do interviews and to go one step beyond, if that's all your mind is at, they're going to see that. They're going to see that something's missing. They're going to see that, you have all the metrics, but the other part of it, the human part of it, the passion part of it is not there.
Mhm.
And to go into a field like medicine, that part really has to be there.
Let's move on to medical school. What is your study schedule like in medical school? I know a lot of people, when they think of medical school, it's like this really hard thing. You always have to be studying all the time. But I just wanted to know what is it really like?
Yeah, so I will say I've only been in med school for a year. And within this first year, I probably changed the way I study about 10 times. Um, yeah, medical school, to be successful in medical school, the one word I would say that everybody needs to have is adaptability. You have to be able to adapt. And for me, that was really hard because, I mean, yeah, middle school, high school, even college, like they challenge you, but for people like us who are kind of like thinking on the different level, like we could get through it. Like, I'll say for myself personally, I've always had a problem with procrastination, and I always did pretty fine. Like, I was okay. But getting to med school was a completely other world. And I don't say that to scare anybody, but I do want to be realistic. It's not like anything you've done before. So you have to be adaptive. You have to come in knowing that you might study for the first test like this, but that might not be the most efficient or productive way. So for the next test, you might have to change it up a little bit. And for me, that was really weird because I kind of studied the same way, like throughout all of college and high school, and it always worked for me. So when I got to med school and I realized how adaptive I had to be, that was kind of a shock to the system. But I think it really is going to make me a stronger person at the end of the day. Um, when I first got to med school, I definitely didn't have the balance. Like, that was not figured out. I was very overwhelmed and I didn't know how to manage my time. And so I was kind of studying, like, all kind of throughout the day and like taking little breaks in between. And I was like neglecting my physical health. I wasn't going to the gym every day, and I was kind of just prioritizing studying over everything. And shortly after that, I realized that is not the way to go. You definitely need to incorporate other elements into your life, like your self-care, your physical activity, and all that stuff. But I'm not gonna lie, like, it's hard to have all of that figured out your first like 2-3 weeks of med school. So that time was a little rocky, but I mean, fair enough, right? It's med school, it's going to be rocky. But now I definitely have like more of a adjusted plan. Well, before quarantine for sure. But, I would kind of start my day around 10. I'm a late sleeper, so I wake up a little later. Start my day around 10, and I would stay at school until 6:30 or 7. And take some breaks during the day, have some time to chat with friends. I wouldn't just be in the library from 10 to 7.
Right.
But then after I would leave school, I would go to the gym and then come back, and that would be the end of my night. So I kind of cut it off at 7, and I didn't want to do any more work. Now, is that to say I always like stop at 7 every day? No, like that's not how med school works. Sometimes you're gonna have to go longer. Sometimes you can go shorter, like adaptability, like I said.
Mhm.
But yeah, you're definitely gonna want to have a routine for yourself. You want to have a schedule. And I was never that type of person. I was never the type of person that had that like hour by hour schedule. Like I thought those people were crazy
Right, right.
because I'm
Yeah.
like super go with the flow. I'm super like, like if I'm hungry, I'll eat. If I want to take a break, I'll take a break. Like that's been me for my whole life. But I definitely had to get more structured and more centered around a routine in med school. And once I was able to do that, that really helped me. And that's going to be different for everyone. Like you're going to have to figure that out for yourself.
What are some things that you love and hate about medical school? Besides studying all of that, like what are things that maybe have surprised you?
Um, I would say one of the best things about med school is the people. Like I have made some amazing friends in the last year that I feel like they're going to be lifelong friends. And I
That's
don't know if that's my particular school or just like the atmosphere. Like I don't know what it is, but for me in college, I definitely had friends, but it was hard to find people that really like share your passion and your drive and they think like you do and they kind of see the world like you do. And for the first time in your life, you're surrounded by a group of classmates whose like passion and goal in life is to like help people and be a servant in their community. Not to say that everybody like is on that level. Some people I think they're just there to like be there, and I don't think that's good. But
Yeah.
it was really special to be able to connect with some people on a really deep level. And another thing I really liked about it was just being able to like finally learn about medicine because I feel like even in college like we took all the science classes and whatever, but it always seemed like a stepping stone towards getting to somewhere else. But once you get to med school, like it's not any of that. Okay, why do I need to know all of this like organic chemistry reactions? Like why am I
Right.
drawing this hexagon over and over and over? You're like, I know this won't help me, but finally, when you get to med school, you're like learning about the human body and the way it works and the ways you can manipulate it. And it's just so powerful to understand the intricacies of how the body works and how it can be broken and how it can be fixed or can't be fixed. So being able to actually learn that material that I've been wanting to learn for so long has also been really, really nice. I would say one thing that I find I don't enjoy or like as much about med school is, um, I guess some of not to say the studying part, but sometimes it can feel like it's like taking over your life. And that goes back to my original comment about making sure this is what you really want to do because it's a sacrifice. And it's a beautiful sacrifice, and I'm lucky to be able to give it, but it is a sacrifice. There's a lot of ways to be successful in this world, and I feel like some people go into medicine because it's a really prestigious job to do, but it's unlike any other. The sacrifice is unlike any other. And sometimes, even on the people that are genuinely there because they want to be there, it can be really hard, because we're humans. We like to live balanced lives. We like to be carefree sometimes. We like to have no obligations sometimes, and that happens, of course. It's not just like school, school, school all day, but sometimes you find yourselves in those moments where you're feeling a little overwhelmed and tired, and it can kind of feel like it's just taking over. But that doesn't happen all the time. And when that does happen, having that passion to like go back to and recharge yourself, it really helps. And that's probably one thing. Um, and yeah, I mean, I guess another thing I guess I didn't like so much is I feel like I thought there would be more diversity in medicine. Like I thought I would see just a sea of different colors of faces when I first walked in. And I think it was kind of a realization that medicine is still, unfortunately, more of an elitist institution. And I
Right.
think that's really relevant to the social commentary of the time. And I have a few amazing friends that are trying to make medicine, at least at McGovern, feel more inclusive. And there's a lot of efforts by medical students around the country that are trying to equalize opportunity to get into medicine. And that's something I'm personally really passionate about.
What kind of things? It is a very big topic. So, what kind of things are you trying to do in McGovern to change that?
Yeah, so I'll say this is definitely an issue of every medical institution. I mean, I see it firsthand at the one I'm at because I'm there, but medicine in as a whole is not doing what it needs to do to be as inclusive as possible. I mean, just think about the obstacles in your way to get into medical school. Think about the money that you have to invest. Think about the support that you have, or that really helps if you have the networking. Like these are all factors that play into like our social status, our race, our wealth, our income, like all of those things, if you have them, can help facilitate you on your way to medicine. And there's a lot of people that are very much deserving, very much capable of being physicians, and the community would really benefit from them being physicians, but they can't get through the door. They can't break through that ceiling because so many things are in their way. And so even talking about this stuff is an amazing thing because you would be surprised to know how like the silence of all of this is like one of the main mechanisms by which it can fester. And I think ever since George Floyd, ever since his murder, I think people are finally starting to realize like silence is deadly and we cannot ignore the consequences of race in getting access to higher education and graduate education. We cannot ignore the importance of having financial support, family support, like all those things matter. And, even like the people at McGovern, like we have some students there who are probably some of the most amazing people I've ever met, but they have had to claw and fight their way to get to where they are. And that needs to be, people need to pay attention to that. And so we're doing a lot of things right now. We're starting a book club on a book called White Fragility, which I don't know if you've heard
I've heard of
about.
that. Then.
Yeah, but it's kind of a great segue for people who are kind of on the other side of the issue. And by that, I mean people who have not had visceral experiences with race or discrimination or prejudice and may not understand the role that race plays in medicine or in pre-meds who are trying to get into medicine. So we're starting efforts like that. We're having more conversations with our administration for how they can be doing better in terms of curriculum. So like implementing curriculum that is more race sensitive and acknowledges the differences in the racial hierarchies of health and health outcomes. And they're listening. So that's one thing I really like about McGovern is when the student body feels passionate about something to bring something to their attention, they don't ignore us. They really listen to us. And so that's something I love about my class is that we can really mobilize together when we feel like there's an issue at hand. And we do. We come together, we make Google forms, we sign petitions, like we do that. And that's, yeah, and it feels so good to be in a community that's empowered to do something. But that's privilege, right? Because so many people in those positions, they don't have the power or the skill or the ability to make that happen. And so as future physicians and people who want to serve their community, there's a lot that's expected of you beyond just studying and making the best grade. Like you have an obligation here. The world is in turmoil and like you're operating in a position of power in your community and you need to use it. And so we're doing a lot of different things. Some of them I can't like remember on top of my head. We're trying to expand our Office of Diversity and Inclusion to have more events and to have more meetings and even tonight. So at actually my planner is right here. So tonight at 7, we're doing small groups where we're having discussions on race and health disparities within my class. And so when I say this stuff, it might seem like little or small, but to like go from a place where everybody is like turning this way whenever like race comes up or inequality comes up, and now we're actively having discussions, like that's a step in the right direction. And I hope that, you know, you and everybody who's listening to this is thinking about these issues. Like, medicine and all of this going on in our society is not mutually exclusive. Like, we've seen it with COVID. We see the populations that are hit hardest by COVID-19. Like, that's a big factor right there. And it's not just COVID-19, it's all the other diseases, cardiovascular disease, cancer, like maternal mortality. Like, if you look at all of these statistics, you'll see that there is a huge stratification on health outcomes and race. And that's something that I think we should all care about.
I guess to end things off a little bit, what advice would you give maybe a pre-med who's maybe on the fence about being in going to medical school? What kind of advice would you give that kind of person who's thinking about going on this path?
I would say that I would invest some time in being really contemplative and reflective about why or why not you may want to go into medicine. Like, really think about it. Like, what is driving you towards it? What is pushing you away? What is pushing you towards it? What's pushing you away from it? Like, even if you want to write it down, like, I would say really invest in those internal conversations, and even talking with your family and friends. Like, you know, even if you may be very qualified, and sometimes that can be hard when you look at your grades and you're doing so well and you've been, you know, you're going down the science path in college, that might be like, okay, I mean, I guess this means like I have to go, you know? But I would say take time to really be reflective on it, and ask yourself, like, you know, what do I hope to accomplish? Like, what is it that I really want to do in medicine? Because this might not be how everybody feels, but like you said, I think going into medicine is bigger than one doctor, one patient, one exam room. Like, to me, that's the simplest, most narrow like story you could tell. I think you have so much potential in the field of medicine for what you can do, the things you can change, like what you can accomplish. And I would think beyond that, you know, I would think beyond just getting an MD after your name or a DO. I would think about, like I said, like it's my main word of the day, but like your passion, and think about if you're ready to invest the time and the money and the headache and the overwhelm and the anxiety, because I'm not gonna lie to you, like that's all there, you know, it happens, and the best of us and the worst of us will feel it. But when you're in the thick of it in med school and you're at the bottom of the bottom, if you don't have that inner sense of purpose and passion to draw on, you're really going to be unhappy. And trust me, there's a lot of doctors out there that are unhappy and they're regretful. And I don't think it's because the profession is bad or the career is bad, but I think it's because that's not really what they wanted. And so I don't have like a direct or exact way to tell you how to find out if this is really what you want to do. But I will say, take the time to invest in figuring that out, however that might happen for you. Because if this is your passion and your dream, like this is going to be amazing. Like this is the best time of my life. Like I'm not even joking. Like I'm full of anxiety. I'm like really tired a lot and all of the time, and all those things too. But I'm also like, for the first time, like I feel like I'm actually in my purpose and in my element, and it feels so good, and I am so happy. But for the people that they aren't that, and it's really not what they want to do, and they just want to appease their family or be successful, like you will be miserable. And if that's you, so my main point of advice is just to really just be reflective and think on it. And you know, if that is what you want, then I really hope it works out for you and everybody listening. And I'm excited, and I hope that I was able to provide a little bit of insight as to, you know, what it's like to be in medicine and be in medical school. And I really hope you guys all get in, and you will because
Yeah.
you're awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Parnaz. We really enjoyed
Welcome.
listening to you. But yeah, I'll end the episode right here. See y'all
Awesome.
later.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, that was a great talk.